We've had 4 ministers of procurement in the last 4 years under these Liberals. I wonder if they should just formalize the process by designating a potted plant to be the 5th minister.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. Tonight we visit the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. It was the same as most committees that we cover, except towards the end, Conservative MP Garnet Genuis put forward a motion that ruffled more than a few Liberal feathers.
And maybe a few plants. Let's take a look.
Sure. In the time I have left, I want to move a motion that the committee report to the House that it invites the President of the Treasury Board, Anita Anand, to appear for no less than 2 hours in relation to the Arrive scam study, and that this meeting occur within 3 weeks of this motion being adopted. Having moved the motion, I will now speak to it.
Just a point of order, Chair.
Hold on.
Oh, here you go. We wouldn't want the minister responsible for the Treasury Board Secretariat to come into committee and testify, now would we, Liberals?
Of course not.
All right, just 1 second. I just want to consult with the clerk, Mr. Junior. First, I'll hear the point of order from Ms. Shanahan, please.
Yes, Chair, I call again. We're having the stunt sprung on us by Mr. Genuis, and I call for a suspension of this meeting. Please suspend the meeting so that we can discuss and receive the motion.
Yeah, So you're reading my mind. I'm just going to consult with the clerk for a second. Just hold on, please.
Gotta protect the ministers.
Of course we do.
We gotta suspend the meeting. Oh, heaven forbid that a minister come to committee. The Liberals are terrified of having any minister speak in front of committee regarding arrivecan right now.
Well, because it's no win for them.
It's kryptonite.
Either they tell the truth, or what we believe to be the truth anyways, and they get in trouble that way, or they try to obscure everything, and it makes them look really, really bad in front of Canadians.
I have a speaking order. I'm going to go again, Mr. Genuis, then Ms. Khalid, Ms. Kuzi, and then Ms. Shanahan. Mr. Genuis, you first. I would like to have UC to change the name of the program in the motion so it is Arrive Can.
Are you serious?
He put Arrive scam in the motion. Oh, that's funny. It's funny. They have to change it.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, no.
Okay, sorry. I thought that one of the Liberals was telling the Conservatives not to use the term Arrive scam. I didn't realize it was actually written in the motion. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, now that I
actually
understand.
tabled the motion and it had Arrive scam.
Now that I understand what's going on, that's hilarious.
This is the thing. Like Khalid the other night, she shouldn't have said anything. She shouldn't have said anything.
Well, yeah, because he's going to poke the bear now.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Well, you know what? When the Liberals have been shutting down committee and dismissing witnesses and filibustering, a little like, what would you call it? Yeah, retribution, I suppose, just in the form of writing Arrive scam. Yes, that's funny.
Trigger warning.
Any objections? Seeing none, it is Arrive Can in this motion that members are debating. Mr. Genuis, back to you. You're welcome to make your rhetorical flourishes on the floor, but not in the motions that this committee will consider. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. And next time I put Arrive scam in a motion, I will add the appropriate trigger warning at the end of the motion.
Wow. He just keeps rubbing salt in that wound. Love it.
Just no F's given. Just nope. Don't care. Trigger warning.
But you know what? Okay. These Conservative MPs have been working pretty much by themselves. Like the NDP will help out sometimes and not usually. But they've been working pretty much by themselves since, November? October was the first time they really started going at the arrivecan issue. And the Liberals have been doing everything they can to, again, dismiss witnesses, shut down committee, filibuster, raise ridiculous points of order. I can only imagine how frustrated they must be.
Yeah, so at this time, they're just like, I don't care. This is what's going to happen, right? And you're going to sit there and deal with it, Liberals.
I guess at the beginning of the motion it would make more sense since it's a trigger
That's not point of order. That's not necessary. We can have respectful adult conversations.
Miss Shanahan,
Does she understand what a point of order is?
Miss Shanahan, you're down on the list, and we will get to you. Mr. Genuis, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think we might need a remedial refresher on the standing orders and which standing orders you can invoke if you disagree with something someone is saying.
Just a point of clarification, that would apply to all parties, I think, over you, Mr. Genuis.
Absolutely, Chair, absolutely. Anyways, I did want to speak to this motion, which is a motion about asking the Minister of the Treasury Board to come before this committee to answer for what happened in the Arrive scam scandal. We've heard some discussion even at today's meeting about this issue of ministerial accountability. Are ministers accountable, and to what extent are ministers accountable for what happens in their government? Now, as far as I can discern, the best defense that Liberal members can muster of the government's action in the context of the Arrive scam scandal is to try to convince us that ministers of the Crown do absolutely nothing. That over 4 ministers of procurement since this pandemic started, that the ministers of procurement were not involved in setting policies, making decisions, giving direction as it relates to procurement.
Okay,
we heard yesterday from witnesses that ministers don't have anything to do
that
with
is
procurement. Minister does not have anything.
Okay, Miss Shanahan, you are down on the third. That's Miss Shanahan. You are down to speak. This is a very valid debate. You're allowed me to speak to it now. The deputy minister has come in today and frankly made the minister sound like he is a passenger in this voyage, not steering the ship. So that is why I think the opposition is raising this, but it is valid. And you're welcome to debate the merits of ministerial accountability in your turn, not as a point of order, which it is not. But you are third on the list. I always welcome points of order to guide me, but I ask that there be points of order. Mr. Genuis, you have the floor again.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal member is helpfully assisting me in precisely demonstrating the point that I was making. She's saying, come on now, the minister is not actually involved in making any decisions that have relevance to the procurement process.
Then why are Canadians paying them extra?
There you go.
Why do they get a higher salary than a regular MP?
And this is the thing. This is the problem, right, that we've talked about before. When facts are not on your side, if you're not willing to admit that you're wrong, you retreat into absurdity. And this is the hill that they're going to die on. And the government will die on this. Is that your ministers are either corrupt or incompetent or both. Which is it?
I'm betting both.
And this is the problem. Because when you have when you have committee members say, "Oh, the ministers have nothing to do with it." See, like from the beginning, if you recall, we were saying that the Conservatives' objectives throughout this whole thing, back from October, is they were building a foundation and putting block after block after block on that foundation to actually get to the point where they can reach a cabinet minister, an elected official, and pull them into this investigation and hold them accountable. Why? Because that's what topples governments.
But not only that, it's showing Canadians, look at these incompetent ministers. Why are they ministers? Why are they getting more money? Why are they your MP? Why do you want to vote for them again?
And it's also showing Canadians, look at the mismanagement of your hard-earned, forcibly taxed dollars that they are playing with like monopoly money. That's what it is showing Canadians. And it is absolutely atrocious and disgusting that this is the way that they're actually conducting themselves.
Unfortunately, though, it's not surprising.
Perhaps the title Minister of Procurement is purely decorative. Mr. Speaker, Canadians expect better, though. Canadians expect ministers to take responsibility for things that happen within their department. Of course, we understand that ministers aren't involved in every specific decision that happens within their department, but they're responsible for establishing the culture, setting the policy frameworks, giving broad direction, and certainly insisting on remedial action when things are clearly starting to go off the rails, as was obviously happening in the case of the Arrive scandal for a long time. We've had 4 ministers of procurement in the last 4 years under these Liberals. I wonder if they should just formalize the process by designating a potted plant to be the 5th minister. A potted plant could receive briefings still, could be present in the department still, but would ostensibly have as much to do with actual procurement as the last 4 ministers have had.
A potted plant. Oh my goodness.
I love it. He's like, a potted plant could receive briefings.
You know,
Jeez.
I volunteer one of our cats. I think they would sit still, they would pretend to listen, and then they would have probably as much responsibility as the actual minister.
And look at them with the same disdain as no doubt Duclos does.
Yes, cats do that well.
I think it's...
I would go to language. In describing other members of Parliament.
Miss Shanahan.
And it's called delegated authority.
Miss Shanahan, you'll be welcome to set the record.
On that point of order, Chair.
Just hold on, Mr. Genuis. Miss Shanahan, that's not a point of order. You're interrupting. I try to avoid having members interrupt one another. We can sit here all day. No other committee is sitting today. We have infinite parliamentary resources to sit here. If you're going to interrupt, you're going to hear more from me, which will take away from your time. Mr. Genuis, if you have a point of order, I'd like to hear it. If you don't have a point of order, I'd like to get back to your time. Why don't you just go back to your time? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know that there's any history of the term potted plant being found unparliamentary.
Well, there's a first time for everything, right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, don't let the Liberals put it in their online harms bill. You're not allowed to call people potted plants. Well, oh my goodness.
We could call them vegetation in receptacles. How about that?
Oh man.
I will underline the point that in our system of government, the public expects ministers to take responsibility, not to be specifically involved in the minutia of every small decision, but to be responsible for the policy, direction, the culture, the frameworks, the rules, and the adherence to the norms that the public expects. So if the Liberals' best defense of what happened in the Arrive scandal is to say the ministers don't have anything to do with what happens inside of government, I would submit that is also a problem, that it is a problem either way. Now, that's to the general point around ministerial accountability. Of course, we need to hear from Minister Anand specifically in reference to an announcement that she made yesterday in reference to her work as president of the Treasury Board and the steps the government says it is taking in this regard. So I think it's very clear, in particular in the context of what we heard yesterday, both at committee and through the media, that hearing from Minister Anand is of particular importance. So this is why this motion was put forward today, I don't doubt that some members will not agree with some aspects of my commentary, but I hope that won't get in the way of support for a common sense motion to invite the President of the Treasury Board to appear before this committee and to speak about her work, the work of her department, and announcements and actions that she has spoken about. Thanks.
So just to give everybody some idea of what Mr. Genuis is talking about. So we actually posted something on Twitter shortly after it broke yesterday. And it was Anita Anand basically just announcing that GC Strategies was going to be suspended from contracts for the foreseeable future, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, what was going on in committee today, and that's what PSPC actually showed up to testify to when questioned by some of the Conservatives on that. So that's what he's talking about. So it's valid. He's saying, okay, so Anita Anand is inserting herself into the GC Strategies storyline. Time to bring her in. She obviously knows some things. Let's get her in here and see how little she does.
Ms. Kusi, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I believe my colleague, Mr. Genuis, has indicated the reasons for which the president of the Treasury Board should be present in front of this committee to account for, not only her announcement yesterday, but her implication in the oversight of arrivecan, Arrive scam going forward. But I also would like to get the president of the Treasury Board in front of the committee as well for another matter that was brought up here today by the deputy minister. As was indicated yesterday, we found out that an individual who is working with the public service has received a significant $8 million from the Arrive scam scandal. And the deputy minister herself today said that she has seen in her oversight the firing of 5 employees for failing to disclose conflict of interest. Well, Mr. President of this committee, you may remember that Life Labs was granted millions of dollars for COVID testing, and that the president of the Treasury Board did not disclose this to the ethics commissioner. Now, she did disclose other things, but prior to the pandemic, you'll be interested to know, Mr. President, that Life Labs, the company on which the president of the Treasury Board's husband sits on as a director, only received $150,000 in contracts prior to the pandemic. Only 3 contracts. After the pandemic, where I will remind the committee that the current president of the Treasury Board served as the Minister of Procurement during that time, Life Labs received a contract for, this is a number, Mr. President, that goes beyond the number we've been discussing here in Arrive scam, $66.3 million on June 23rd.
Sorry, Ms. Kusi, I have a point of order from Ms. Yip.
Thank you.
Yeah, just questioning the relevance of this.
Thank you, Ms. Yip. I think off the top, Ms. Kusi does have wide latitude. Ms. Kusi, back to you, please.
Yeah, thank you. It's very relevant because we are calling her
on arrivecan.
That's right, and
just 1 second, Ms. Kusi.
Discussing conflicts of interest.
Yeah,
thank you very much, Mr. President.
Sorry, Ms. Kusi. It's not my intent to cut you off, and I will let you finish up. I just wanted to. We are now actually debating the motion before us. So it's the Treasury Board President, Ms. Kusi, you have the last words. I don't know if you wanted if you want it back again, or if I should move on.
Sure. No, I would like to continue.
Thank you.
I am providing another compelling reason that we need the president of the Treasury Board in front of
point of order,
this committee. Oh, it seems to me, Mr. President, that they are trying to interrupt
yes,
me.
I'll hear the point of
so
Ms. Cleed. You are next.
Go ahead, please, Mr. President.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering if you wanted to excuse any witnesses that are in the room at this point, if that's okay. I know that we've gone over time, but I just wanted to make sure that they were not sitting around.
Ms. Cleed, you have the last spot, so I will. I'm ready to excuse them if you like. It is up. I can turn to government members, or you in particular. Would you like me to excuse the witnesses?
I think it would probably be best for us to excuse the witnesses. I don't want to keep them waiting.
Very good. Ms. Reza, Mr. Hayes, and your team, thank you for coming in today. I appreciate it, and I, too, am pleased you are being excused so you can get on with your day. Thank you very much. We'll see you all again. Ms. Kusi, again, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I think it's unfortunate that they're being excused because I think actually they would be interested and appreciative that I am actually bringing forward another rationale for the appearance of the President of the Treasury Board that is related to the action that they indicated that they took today on behalf of the information we found out this week about Dalian. So as I was saying, the President of the Treasury Board did not disclose to the Ethics Commissioner that her husband was a director on Life Labs. And as I mentioned previously as well, prior to the pandemic, only $150,000 in contract. Yet during the pandemic, as I was indicating before I was interrupted, on June 23rd of 2020, $66.3 million was awarded to Life Labs, but it did not stop there, Mr. President. On August 20th, we saw an additional $1.9 million being awarded to Life Labs. And I say to all Canadians, and I would have said to the witnesses, were they still there, is it not accurate that the President of the Treasury Board, the individuals who oversees the public servants, who is supposed to be a leader, should set the standard, should be held to the same standard, to the same ethical code that this deputy minister that we just dismissed was so proud to indicate that she held 5 members to? So I think this is another very compelling reason, Mr. Chair, that we have the President of the Treasury Board. In addition to the oversight, which, as I said previously, of ministers, which is inextricably connected to the outcomes, to the results, where we determined that Canadians did not receive value for money. This is another compelling piece of information, another compelling piece of evidence, as presented by the Deputy Minister here today in her actions, that also the President of the Treasury Board should be held to.
Okay, so Stephanie went on for a while there.
Well, she kept getting interrupted.
Yeah, and I know that she's talking about the fact that Life Labs is getting a large amount of money from the government, and it was because of COVID and all that stuff. Okay, so objectively, everybody, when it comes to the lab sector in Canada, there are effectively 2 big labs across Canada. There's Life Labs, and then there's Dynacare. Those are basically the 2 biggest. And they're both kind of American owned. Life Labs, let me correct myself. Life Labs is owned by OMERS, and Dynacare is owned by a corporation down in the States called LabCorp. And Life Labs is definitely the bigger of the 2. There used to be 3. I think the third one was called MLS, and that was purchased actually by Life Labs. So, and being a director at Life Labs, he doesn't get any financial benefit for any of the business that's coming in and like from the government, like any of that funding. Yeah, it's nice because the company's actually getting money, but the only other option would be Dynacare, and I don't believe that they would actually have the capacity to handle a lot of this stuff that was coming in. They were no doubt getting some contracts, but I don't think it would have been possible for them to take on the volume that Life Labs ended up taking on. So I see what Stephanie's trying to do here. I think it's just more political in nature. I don't think there's a lot to it, to be honest.
So with that, Mr. President, I will conclude, and I would just encourage all committee members to support this motion for transparency, not only for the work that is done and the value of tax dollars for Canadians, but also to ensure that these ministers who are inextricably tied to their outcomes are also held accountable to the highest of standards. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Ms. Khalid, over to you now, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. I appreciate you and the time that we have to talk about this very important issue. First and foremost, I just want to be very clear. I have no issues with any minister coming before this committee to answer questions. I have no issues with holding members of our government, including bureaucracy, to account for what has happened here. What I am concerned about is efficiency. It's about how are we just as we, like the Conservatives have really gone down this massive fishing expedition. Unfortunately, they haven't caught any fish so far. But I'm wondering, what
we caught
is
one
the
that's
best...
about $60 million in size.
Mr. Barrett, would you like to be added to the speaking list?
Mr. Barrett, would you like to be added to the speaking list?
Good one, Barrett.
That's funny.
Not a boy.
That was funny. It was unexpected. And
It was unexpected. And Barrett, he's, again, another gentleman that strikes me as, like, very calm and quiet and
But
stoic.
very witty.
But, like, don't poke the bear. You know what I mean?
Back to you, Miss Khalid.
It's happening.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Chair. And to Mr. Barrett, there is no fish that has been caught here. As many as thousands and thousands of hours that you guys have spent in trying to find something here that is passing your sniff test, and the fact that you keep on calling so many committee meetings on this tells me that you haven't really found anything.
Are you kidding me?
Does she not understand the size and the depth of this investigation?
Okay, so let's just lay this out, folks. So what Khalid is saying is, despite the fact that an $80,000 app that was ballooned to $60 million, that has found that one of the primary contractors in question that received funding from that actually wrote the RFP for themselves to bid on, despite the fact that the other primary contracting company that won the bid on this had a public servant that was actually working for the government of Canada in a direct conflict of interest, despite the fact that GC Strategies admitted in committee to actually doctoring resumes in order to win contracts, and despite the fact that it has been no doubt confirmed that insider government employees have actually been found to be participating in that criminal behavior where the RCMP is involved. Khalid would have everybody think there's nothing to see here, folks. It's a waste of time.
I think what we have found, and what all parliamentarians agree on, is that something happened here with the arrivecan app that we need to make sure that bureaucrats are held responsible, that we want to make sure that the money that was paid out to these middle management folks is brought back into our government, and that Canadians have accountability for how their tax dollars are spent. What we are not finding here, regardless of all of your countless efforts, is that this was a ministerial sign-off, that the Prime Minister, for some reason, signed off on this. That is not what has happened here. And we've spent, 6,000 hours on this so far? Well, let's talk about not finding anything for 6,000 hours, and what is 1 or 2 more hours of the Treasury Board president going to do to come in to say, all right, let me add to the 6,000 hour tally and millions of dollars of taxpayers so the Conservatives can go sniffing and trying to find something, and they haven't found anything. What I would appreciate is if we have public officials coming in to talk about what the next steps are, to talk about how we can get our taxpayer dollars back, to talk about how we can fix the process here.
Wait a minute. How do we can get our taxpayer dollars back? Do you mean the taxpayer dollars that the Conservative motion that was put forward in the House of Commons and the Liberals voted against it? You talking about that motion, Khalid?
Yeah, those tax dollars, Khalid?
Because you voted against that.
Right.
Just saying.
We not make everything political. I would really appreciate if we're not just, trying to find those cheap political wins in every single thing that the Conservatives are doing. Let's actually do something productive. That's what the purpose of the Public Accounts Committee is, Chair. And I really appreciate all of your efforts in making sure that we are trying to do our very best to hear from all the witnesses. But reality is, we still don't have a game plan. We've had so many meetings here in this committee. We still don't have a game plan as to what our next steps are within this committee. We can call 1,000,001 witnesses, but until and unless we as a committee decide, okay, this is how we are going to move forward, these are the recommendations that we are going to provide to our government, this is what we need to do to make sure that something like this does not happen again, then why are we going down a wild goose chase? And again, I reiterate, I have no problems with any minister appearing before the committee. I think that it is ineffective. It is a waste of taxpayer dollars. It is a waste of all of the amazing people that are in the room right now, making sure that this meeting happens. It's unfortunate, and I would hope that my colleagues would agree with me on this, and I know that my conservative colleagues are still going to go down this path of a witch hunt and try to find something.
Well, there's no witch hunt. We know where the witch is. Her name's Chrystia Freeland. But that's not who we're talking about here.
But notice how severely she's deflecting.
Oh, yeah. Anita Anand cannot be brought into committee. That's basically what I'm hearing here.
Well, and the other thing that I heard that Khalid put forward herself was that, well, nobody's, and again, okay, I should back up. I'm not saying this is a direct quote, but she was implying that nobody's saying that this is the Prime Minister's fault. Why would you all of a sudden come out with that? Like, just out of nowhere.
Yep.
That just seems bizarre to me. It's not really evidence of anything, but it seems bizarre. You know what I mean?
Well, I think there has been questions on, tying this to Privy Council office and stuff like that, which is the Prime Minister. So,
but she's trying to, again, she's trying to deflect. She's trying to shut this down and pretend that she's being altruistic and, oh, we can all play nice. And why do we have to make this political? Because you're in politics, girl.
Right. You're in the government. Welcome to the government of Canada. Anyway, we're not gonna bother with the rest of what Khalid's saying. We're not gonna bother with the rest of what Shanahan's saying. At this point, we're going to skip to the vote. So what ended up happening after this is, so the Liberals got really angry. They tried to find a way of actually excluding Anita Anand from even coming to committee, despite the fact that was the actual motion, and the chair ruled that was an invalid amendment that they can actually add to the motion. The chair was challenged on that, and the Bloc and the NDP voted with the Conservatives again to uphold the chair's ruling. And then because the Liberals saw that the Bloc and the NDP were again voting against them, they had no choice but to actually accept the motion and ended up voting for it. So here you go again. The Liberals are being dragged down by arrivecan, kicking, screaming, scraping, whatever they can actually do in order to stop this investigation from moving forward. But hats off to the NDP and the Bloc when it comes to this investigation. They're siding with the Conservatives and pushing this forward because they know that this is going to end very, very badly for the Liberals. So that's it for committee today. It was over 3 hours of ridiculousness, but this is the main part of committee that we thought was the important part to release tonight, which is Garnet Genuis's motion. And man, it was we got everything from potted plants to trigger warnings and everything in between.